Hey everybody, it's Janet with Sugarshine Designs, and today I'm going to show you two new dies that came out September 20th as part of the CottageCutz Christmas release. It includes this frame for the window with the shutters and the flower box, as well as another set that has the snowman and the Santa that you see here that I used in both the inside and the outside of today's card. Let's take a look at the packages here. First is the windows with shutters. It's got the window itself, a header, the shutters, and then also the flower box below. Now the companion piece to this is the second die, and it has the Santa, Snowman, the tree, and then some flowers, which are poinsettias in this case, to go in the flower box. So let's take a look at the snowman card. Now I used an acetate window and set it up on foam tape so that I could put my snowman behind the window and it would appear three-dimensional. And I like that look, but it isn't something that is required to use this die set by any means. So this card is an A2 size, and for the mat I'm creating a mat that'll match the colors of my shutters by using my Spectrum Noir marker here. And since only the edge is going to show, I'm only coloring the edge. There's no sense in using all of that ink for something that's going to be covered up. The mat size on here is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then on top of that goes this wood grain piece of paper, which is 4 by 5 1/4. In order to create the window that I need in the front of my paper, I created a template made out of a cardstock rectangle that was sized about 2 by 2 3/8. And then I placed that on the back of my designer paper here and used as a template to draw that rectangle and then cut out the rectangle so that now I had a place to attach my acetate and a place that is just the right size to put the window frame of the die on, and thus create the look that you see in the finished card. I'll end up using this template a few times as I make this card. But once it was drawn on the back of the designer paper, I could just simply use a ruler and my craft knife to cut it out like you saw me do. And then it was time to attach the acetate, which I had just salvaged from something I had purchased in the past. It was fairly rigid, and I just attached that with some Scotch tape there. Now the frame of the die I cut in white and just used some gray Spectrum Noir marker to color it with. And then I'm using my white craft glue to apply the actual frame on top of the acetate. Now do be careful with this, because if you use too much glue it can seep out onto the acetate, and that is impossible to get off in my experience, and you'll just have kind of a sloppy look. Now you'll see when I drop that I could have had a disaster, because if it had landed on my acetate instead of on the designer paper, I probably would have had to start over on that, because it just doesn't clean off and it looks smeary. So next I'm making the shutters of the card, and so what I did here was cut thin strips of foam tape and only applied it to one edge of each of the shutters. Then I used ATG on the other end of the shutter, or the other side of it. So the foam went on the outside edge, and then the ATG on the side that's closest to the window frame. And then this gives a look as if the shutter is on a hinge and is open. So it gives it a nice little three-dimensional look. I did the very same thing on the other side, as you'll see here. And then once that's done, then I could move on to the flower box. The flower box and the poinsettias are also just cut out in white, and then I used Spectrum Noir markers to color them. And the vines here and the flowers come separately, so I made several of the flowers. 3 of them go on the vine, and I had previously glued them on. And then once that was ready, I could attach that to the flower box that I'd made. And again, I just used some foam tape here to lift up the flower box, because in real life the flower box would be a little closer to you than the window, so it makes sense to the eye and to the brain that that's a little bit closer and stands up. For the sentiment here, I cut out a black cardstock, a simple flag, and then I heat embossed white embossing powder on it to say warmest wishes. Now here's where the template comes in handy again as well. I put it behind my window and then set it back on the card. So then I can lift the window section off, the template remains, and I can again sketch the rectangle that's going to show through on the window. And this is what I'm going to use for my placement guide for the little snowman and the Christmas tree inside. Now you want to make sure that the bars of the window don't cross over the cute little face of your snowman. So that's what you're seeing me do here, is kind of rearrange things until I figure I have that about right. I don't want to cover up, you know, his grin or his nose with the framing of my window. So once I had that about right, I put my tree in place with some glue, and then just double checking again that after I did that and moved my snowman around that I could that I got him in the right place. As it turned out, it was perfect, just right in the corner of my sketched rectangle. One thing I'll tell you that I added to Mr. Snowman here was the poinsettia on his hat. It comes with the little hat band, and I just thought it needed, or was asking for something to make his hat a little bit more jaunty, so I just cut another poinsettia for that. I also used another poinsettia for the tip of the tree in the Santa card. If you take a look at that picture again, you'll notice that I did that as well. So it's just cut a few more, and you could use more in the flower boxes too if you wanted. I just stuck with the 3, but you certainly could have added more if you like a more full look. The next step is to attach the double-sided foam tape to the back of the window piece so that it stands up and shows the snowman and his Christmas tree behind the window and gives that 3-dimensional look that we're going for. I wanted some strong support behind my window piece because the paper I used was, as I said, just paper, and it wasn't very strong. So I applied the foam tape to the entire back piece of this so it had a good strong support. And you might think as you're looking at this, hey, that's basically a shaker well, and you're right. I've created more or less a normal shaker well. It just has the window frame on the front. And I did think about maybe adding some micro beads or something to that so that it made it a shaker card as well. But in the end I decided not to. I didn't want to detract, in this case, from my little snowman scene. But I think that would be a great idea, and I would encourage you to try that if you'd like to with this set of dies. Moving on, I'm creating the inside of my card, and I used 2 dies from the nested stitched scalloped rectangle set. Since when you cut the die you get both the Santa and the snowman, I just decided to go ahead and use the Santa on the inside. So when you open the card up, he's waving at you and saying hello, and I think that was a cute little touch to it. It was totally a last-minute inspiration, but I like the way that one worked out. The last thing to do at this point is to attach the window piece to the front of the card, and I did that with my white craft glue. Just applied it fairly liberally and then placed it on the front of the card. Wet glue is great for this because it gives you some time to move around your front piece if you happen to not get it completely centered the first time. Well, there's my card for you today. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed making it for you. If you did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I hope to see you soon, but until then, take care. Bye.